All right. First rule of this channel, we not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So this is going to be the 2024 offseason fantasy football preview for the Minnesota Vikings. And the point of this entire series of team-by-team breakdowns is my process. I want to find out the guys that are either overvalued or undervalued so I can attack the right guys and I can fade the right guys. So it's just not about me, looking and listening to what other people say and trying to follow what they're doing. I like to listen to what everybody says and then make sure that I'm evaluating guys the way that I feel comfortable and then factor in what other people are saying so I can appropriately attack the meta in a manner that I don't think other people are doing. That's kind of the idea behind this. So there will be a lot of movement in guys throughout the offseason, moving guys up and down. I think I already said, like, last year I started the process off of opportunity and had Najee Harris as my running back 6. Obviously, he moved down because I don't think I had any shares of him last year. But there are going to be other guys out there that are going to start low and they're going to creep up my board as I tell my story. And there's going to be other guys that start high and they creep down my board as I start finding reasons why I don't particularly like them. Like I said, I go into a lot of my drafts and I'm going to have a list of about maybe 24 guys, and that's it. Like, that's usually what I'm pulling off of. I've gotten to the point where one of my co-managers I'm going to have to talk to a little bit about how much more aggressive we're going to be. We played it relatively safe last year and got to the chip and lost. The other one, we were way too aggressive and we got bounced in the opening round. So trying to find that balance between attacking certain guys and letting certain guys fall to you is also something that's part of the strategy behind this. So anyway, let's get into the Vikings. So Kirk Cousins leaves and he goes over the Falcons. The biggest thing to take out of this with Kevin O'Connell and this passing offense is they're going to be like really pass heavy. I actually have this pulled up last year. So last year, as bad as the quarterback situation was after Kirk went down with that Achilles, they still finished in the top 4 when it came to pass attempts. And they were relatively higher with the teams that were in this area at 7.4. And that's with this this quarterback room that they had last year of Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall and Josh Dobbs. So with all those guys there, just based off the offense, it is very quarterback friendly. This is something that I would be factoring into how I break these guys down. They were 29th in rushing yards. They were 5th in passing yards, 22nd in points for. So only can go really up from there. And then the defense was a little all over the place, and that's going to be kind of just how it's designed. Very, very aggressive is a good way to put it. So moving on, their roster is very odd, and I will talk about this. There's really nobody in the wide receiver room that I would be really looking at to be the wide receiver 3 after they lost KJ Osborne last year. So it's Justin Jefferson and it's going to be Jordan Addison. And then your guess is as good as mine on who the wide receiver 3 is. And then the tight end room with TJ Hockenson, I'm going to guess going on the pup to start the season off. That's going to get a little bit interesting. And then there really aren't a lot of running backs that I would be interested in outside of Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler. Miles Gaston's there. Dwayne McBride, I think he got cut and then they brought him back. So there's not a lot that we're going to be looking at when it comes from a fantasy perspective. It's the guys that we would expect. I don't know how many actual sleepers we're going to be able to pull out of these guys. So starting out with the quarterback room, looking at Sam Darnold right now, competing to be the quarterback 1 for the team. He's my quarterback 22. He's combined with JJ McCarthy as we try and figure out who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings this year. And again, this is a very fantasy friendly quarterback system. Kirk Cousins last year with the Vikings, he was on pace to lead the league in passing touchdowns and passing yards before he got injured. So whoever is the passing or the quarterback in this offense is going to be fantasy relevant right off the get. And both Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy are going to have a little bit more nimbly-bimbly than Kirk. So again, they may be all over the place, but they should be at least on fantasy radars to start the season off. So Sam Darnold's going quarterback 34 on Fantasy Pros, 302. JJ McCarthy's going quarterback 27, 177. Over here on ESPN, they don't even have Sam Darnold listed. JJ McCarthy's quarterback 24 going 200. And then on Underdog, and remember, that's a best ball league wide receiver meta. You're looking at JJ McCarthy going quarterback 26, 197.9. and Sam Darnold's going quarterback 34, 115.3. So everyone is expecting pretty much that Sam Darnold is not going to win the job. It's going to be JJ McCarthy. I do think that JJ McCarthy has enough nimbly bimbly that he should be on the draftability radar if he wins the job. High volume passing offense, a little bit of nimbly bimbly. That's all about what we need. And it's the same thing with Sam Darnold. If Sam Darnold wins the job flat out, I would almost put him in the range of like should be drafted in all leagues, somewhere between quarterback 13 and quarterback 17 if it's his job going in the season. If it's JJ McCarthy, because he's the rookie and we can probably guess a little bit more rookie growing pains, I would probably keep him about like quarterback 22. But when we look at these guys, and I probably should have pulled up the quarterback rankings, where he's going, if like guys like Drake May, that should be considered on draft boards if he wins the job because of the rushing upside. Those guys that have the rushing upside, especially if they're going to be attached to like faster offenses that are going to throw the football a lot, it doesn't really matter how the sausage is made. They're going to have the ability to win me a league. And that's about the only thing that I'd be looking at. So once you get past, some of these premium guys, then it turns into like, am I going to be drafting a second quarterback that is no longer safe, but has the ability to win me a league? And that's what I would primarily be looking at with like a Sam Darnold, if he can get on this Kirk Cousins pace. And again, it doesn't matter how good or bad you think these guys are. Like he's going to win leagues just off the, I think Kirk Cousins was at 18.8 points a game, and your scoring settings and my scorings again may be different, but that's where Kurt was. And if Sam Darnold has a little bit of nimbly bimbly, if JJ McCarthy has a little bit of nimbly bimbly, like that really changes the direction of how your fantasy football lineup's going to go during the season. I don't think it's pulling up on me. Trying to get the quarterback points per game to pull up so I can see. There's Kirk right there, 18.7 points that he was on pace for before he went down with that Achilles. So just getting that from an undrafted quarterback, whether it's Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy, is probably going to win you a league. And if you really think that I'm full of it at this point, Nick Mullins, when he filled in at the end of last year, he had 19.1 points in week 15, week 16, he had 20.5. And then week 18, he had 22.6. Now he did, again, have 9.1 in week 17, again, limited from a talent profile standpoint. But Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy, like in the ballpark of, 18 to 20 points a game. And they both have enough of the rushing upside that would push them up probably into that a sub-elite tier of guys on the season. That's just in general what I'd be looking at. All right, moving on to the running back room. So I did end up moving Aaron Jones all the way down to my running back 34, and Ty Chandler, he went down as I split them, but he is running back 33. Ty Chandler is probably going to be this year's Kyren Williams. I shouldn't say probably. I can tell the story about how Ty Chandler is going to be this year's Kyren Williams at this point. So Aaron Jones, he's going at running back 18 on Fantasy Pros, 57 overall. On ESPN, he is going running back 20, 67 overall. And on Underdog, he is going running back 19 with an ADP of 78.1. Ty Chandler on Underdog is going running back 46, 145.3. On ESPN, he's going running back 43, 121. And then on Fantasy Pros, he's going running back 45, 141 overall. This is the main reason why I'd be interested in him as a dart throw to take over the backfield in a way that we saw with Kyren Williams. Like if you're looking for what we would quote unquote see as this year's Kyren Williams, and Kyren Williams last year was last year's Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is going like 5th or 6th round, 4th round, some drafts. And then he returns as like running back, like depending on your scoring settings, 1 to 3, something along those lines. And then, so if we're looking at a guy that we totally missed on who was going to own the backfield and ended up owning the backfield that was going undrafted, that would be Kyren Williams. And the reason why I would say it's going to be Ty Chandler is when I started breaking down Aaron Jones, like there's a lot of stuff that I don't like about this. First of all, you're guessing that the quarterback situation is going to be at least serviceable. And I may talk about like JJ McCarthy and Sam Darnold have a road to end up being a league winner. It doesn't mean that they're going to do that. And with worse quarterback play, that means that you're getting less scoring opportunities coming out of the running back position. So right off the bat, like that's going to lower Aaron Jones down because of his potential opportunities to score touchdowns. It may raise his opportunities in the passing game, especially the design passing game, but he still has to be the starting running back in order to get that. So Aaron Jones, he's going to turn 30 in December. He's 29 right now. They only paid him $7 million, and I have that pulled up right here. 1-year deal. He's going right around this area, just below Tony Pollard and DeAndre Swift. He's the same per year as James Conner. The reason why I bring this up is last year with Miles Sanders, when he got like that $6.3 million a year deal, and the Panthers essentially said, like, we're done. Just because they paid him $7 million in this running back market does not necessarily mean that he's going to hold on to the job as the starting running back, especially with that age cliff coming. And that thing can just hit really hard and it can bite. Now, the other thing that I would guess overall with him and Ty Chandler is there's going to be some type of timeshare, and that timeshare could be somewhere between like, 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, whatever they decide there's going to go on in camp. The biggest reason when I started looking at all this stuff is last year when it came to efficiency, and Aaron Jones missed a lot of time. He was 43rd when it came to red zone efficiency. So 31 rush attempts, 2 rushing touchdowns. He also had another 9 targets that he cashed in for 0 touchdowns. So again, that's just going to be very inefficient. Now, our buddy Ty Chandler, he had 11 red zone rush attempts. He cashed those in for 3 rushing touchdowns. He also had 3 red zone targets. None of those he cashed in for touchdowns. So at this point, like, it just becomes a fact that Aaron Jones had a fair amount of red zone opportunities that he couldn't cash in. And you could see last year with all the opportunities that, like, Raheem Mostert cashed in a third of his red zone rushing attempts. Christian McCaffrey, it was about a quarter. So again, some of that may be a bad luck, like we talked about with like Tony Pollard yesterday. The other thing it could be is just a guy is getting older and he just can't get it done the way that he used to. And those high value carries are what's going to win you leagues from a fantasy perspective. So if I'm going to gamble on a guy, spending like running back, 18 prices on 57 overall over here on ESPN, like 67 overall, like I want to be very sure that I'm going to get what I'm paying for. In this case, like that would be something that I would be paying attention to in camp. The more this turns into a split backfield, the more it's just not worth going for Aaron Jones, and the more it ends up being worth to go for Ty Chandler. And in this case, when we look at what went on with Kyren Williams last year and Miles Sanders, it's just always better to go get the cheaper guy, because the road for Aaron Jones to be able to win me a league with maybe suspect quarterback play, which means maybe a suspect offense, and that age cliff, with Ty Chandler getting a certain amount of the touches in the offense. And we can't even say who's going to get the higher value touches, if it's going to be Ty Chandler in the red zone in the design passing work, or if it's going to be mostly Aaron Jones doing the trustworthy stuff, which is going to have a certain amount of value in and of itself. Like, even if Aaron Jones is the pass blocking back in this offense, and I can actually pull this one up, the pass blocking back in this offense, the guy that's going to be in there on those blitz packages, maybe end up being KJ Ham, I think. If I can hunt him down, if he's not listed as a fullback, right there, CJ Ham, right there. Like, that's the guy that they usually bring in to do the pass blocking reps. So if Ham is going to be the pass blocker, it doesn't really matter. They're just not going to be on the field. And you can see as a fullback, he's on the field like 26% of the time, 31% of the time. It really depends on who they feel most comfortable picking up those pass blocking snaps. If it's not Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler's probably not the guy. I think that's part of the reason why they haven't kept him on the field. But then all this is telling me is if I want a piece of this offense, I should go with the cheaper route. That would be Ty Chandler, the younger guy who may be a little bit more efficient. Generally, that's what I'd be thinking. And just with the precedent of a team paying a guy and then deciding he's not the guy, they already did that last year with Miles Sanders. It's not going to be surprising to me. They could have paid Aaron Jones more money. They didn't. They could have gone after a guy like a DeAndre Swift and paid him more money. They didn't. They also could have gone after a cheaper guy like Devin Singletary, only got like $5.5 million as opposed to Aaron Jones $7 million. So how committed the Vikings are going to be to Aaron Jones on that 1-year rental is going to be very interesting going through camp. All right, moving on to the wide receiver room. Justin Jefferson, he moved all the way back up to wide receiver 4 overall. Sometimes it's just the way it breaks down. He's going wide receiver 4 on Fantasy Pros, 5 overall on ESPN. He's over here at wide receiver 5, 8 overall. I think this may be closer to where he should be going. He's not in the tier of CMC, Brees, Bijan, CD Lamb. I think he's below Jamar Chase at this point. Like, you have to factor in, at least, well, I shouldn't say you. I am factoring in that I just really don't know what that quarterback situation is going to be like. And when we look at like Garrett Wilson that I brought up before, like that bad quarterback play, it doesn't matter how good we think a guy is. That's not what fantasy football is about. It really has to do with the situation. And if he's getting very inefficient opportunities this year, you're not going to get Justin Jefferson, league winner, wide receiver 1, fantasy MVP. You could end up with like Garrett Wilson, wide receiver 32 overall in this case. So overall, an underdog, Justin Jefferson is going as wide receiver 4 with an ADP of 5.4 overall. And again, I think this is about the range that I would be looking at him going. I would be pulling the trigger on Garrett Wilson over Justin Jefferson because I'm going to bet on Aaron Rodgers even at 40. Then I'm going to bet on Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy in this offense at this point. So moving on, Jordan Addison, he is my wide receiver 45. I moved him down, and this is all about his inability to win me a league, without a Justin Jefferson injury, and how much we're not going to be able to predict what the quarterback situation is going to be like in Minnesota with Darnold and McCarthy. So that's why I would move him down. He's going to be, this boom bust wide receiver 2 or 3, depending on how efficient that play is. And we can't predict that at this point. We can only guess to a certain degree of accuracy. And then, he just can't win a league. Without that Justin Jefferson injury, he can't win a league. He's going as wide receiver 40 on Fantasy Pros, 86 overall. On Underdog, he's going wide receiver 39 with an ADP of 67.8. They're still expecting some spike weeks from Jordan Addison over there on Underdog. And then on ESPN, he is going as wide receiver 38, 85 overall. And again, this is another one of those guys that, like, where I would look at him in drafts saying, like, are there guys around him that can win me leagues? And in this ESPN league, you're looking at like Terry McLaurin. Theoretically, you got Deontay Johnson that could be the number 1 in that offense. Cortland Sutton may be the number 1 in that offense. We know that Jordan Addison's not going to be the number 1. Jake Ferguson's going to have a lot of upside in this range. Kyle Pitts could win a league. Like, those would be the guys that I'd be looking at on Fantasy Pros in that 86 range. Just trying to, like, the Hollywood Brown's there. I'd rather have Hollywood Brown. There's Deontay Johnson again. Kyle Pitts is a little high. Zach Moss potentially being the running back attached to that good Cincinnati offense, that projected good Cincinnati offense, as opposed to just a high volume passing offense in Minnesota. We don't know if it's going to be necessarily good or bad or not. And then other guys that I would be looking at potentially going up and getting in this range, like if I really wanted Jane Daniels and I believe in him, like I probably would be going up over and getting Jordan Addison. This would be the range right now that it would look like I would have to be pulling the trigger to make sure I get a Jaden Daniels, and I'd be okay with that over Jordan Addison shares. All right. The other thing to talk about this, and I said I was going to show more of this wide receiver room. Like, I don't know who these 3 rookies are. Jashawn Jones from Maryland, and he's the only real D1 guy. They have 2 rookies from Mercer, and they're, the subdivision. So I don't know anything about them overall. So, like, maybe Deshaun Jones is going to have the best route to break out of this group because, he's undrafted for Maryland. These other guys that are on there, like, they already know what they've got. They've already been in the league for at least a year. Like, Trent Sherfield is coming over from the Bills. Brandon Powell's back. He's been on the Vikings before. If I had to guess, it may be like former 6th-round draft pick, like Jalen Naylor. And to bring this up, Naylor had this one game where he did 92% snaps, wasn't very much involved. 24% snaps week 14, 5 targets. Like, maybe he's going to be the odds-on guy to finish as a wide receiver 3 in this offense. There's Trent Sherfield. Like, your guess is going to be as good as mine. And why this matters is if they're basically if the defenses just generally are not going to be paying attention to the wide receiver 3, that means that quarterback play becomes that much more important. Though, trying to get the football to the 2 fantasy relevant guys, Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. There's nobody there that is going to be the beneficiary of, teams trying to take away the 2 best players. That bothers me because, teams could just like play man against the really bad number 3. That's part of the reason why the Vikings went out and they got Jordan Addison to punish teams for trying to take away Justin Jefferson. At this point, like, you could just put everybody on these 2 guys, because when we get to the tight end room, TJ Hockenson, there's no timetable. That's still up there from when I did the tight end rankings. There's no timetable on TJ Hockenson coming back. So I'm still going to guess pup, which means you're looking at like 6 weeks, and then he's going to ramp back up like we saw with like Brees last year. So TJ Hockenson, he's undraftable in my opinion. And you can think something along the lines of like Kyle Pitts last year, where he just didn't look right all year coming off that knee surgery. So he's my tight end 28. If you want to draft him with that lottery ticket, like, you're more than welcome to. There are other guys out there that I would be interested in other than TJ Hockenson. He's going tight end 14 on Fantasy Pros, 122 overall. On Underdog, he's going tight end 15 with 143.4. And then on ESPN, he is going at tight end 12, 90 overall. And again, I don't understand that, especially in the range of like your Kyle Pitts and your Jake Ferguson's, like, that are going to have that upside. So again, the guys that I would be more interested in throwing darts at than trying to get myself TJ Hockenson late in the year. And again, probably the better way to handle that in redraft would be let someone else draft him and then pick him up closer to when he's going to get off the pup. Save that lottery ticket early in your draft process. So like your Daniel Bellingers, your Ben Sinats, your Brock Bowers, your Chigs, your Juwan Johnson, if the foot's better, Noah Fant, Hunter Henry, those type of guys I'm going to have a lot more interested in than trying to go after TJ Hockenson at this point down the line. And there's a few other guys that we'll look at. The other really interesting thing when I was looking at this for me is if I'm even thinking about TJ Hockenson, the number 3 in this offense right now projects to be Robert Tonyan, who was fantasy relevant back when he was with Green Bay a few years ago. So he would be the guy that, like, if I was actually going to be throwing darts at in a draft, like 13th round draft pick, like tight end, the number 3 in this high volume passing offense, Robert Tonyan, I don't think anybody, including myself, is going to be throwing a dart at Robert Tonyan in the draft. He may end up being fantasy relevant to start the season off. I just don't know who else they're going to throw the football to outside of Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson from a receiver standpoint. From a running back standpoint, that would theoretically raise the value of your Ty Chandler and your Aaron Jones stock. But that's something we have to be listening to about what is or is not being said in camp. And hopefully you guys heard that motorcycle. That's about all I got for today. I think like Aaron Jones is going to probably like be really overvalued. Ty Chandler is probably going to be like very undervalued. Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy, whoever wins the job is going to have a league winning upside in this offense. Justin Jefferson, I think he's in a tier. He's not in that high elite tier. He's in the lower tier of those guys. I don't even think he's necessarily in the Jamar Chase tier. I think he's below that because of the quarterback situation. Overall, Jordan Addison is going to be very inconsistent and very unpredictable because of the quarterback situation. Don't know how he wins me a league, even if the quarterback situation is good at this point. And then tight end, I would be staying away from TJ Hockenson. And if I was really ballsy, and I'm not even this ballsy, I'd be throwing my dart at Robert Tonyan this year in fantasy. So anyway, that's about all I got for the guys that are left with this one. I've broken down all the teams. I'm going to go through and rearrange some of my rankings a little bit more before I do the updated rankings videos, probably before camps open up. I am going to go over some of the stuff that I did pull out of this and start breaking down the list. These would be, the short list of guys that I would be targeting in drafts relative to their ADPs right now. Something I usually don't start working on for about another month or so. I will get done this early so we can start moving those up and down as hype trains happen. But that would be the idea behind this. And then we'll get into more strategy and breaking down how I would attack drafts coming into draft season. All right.